Here we are in the final hours of day 14 of the shutdown with no end in sight. 800,000 federal employees still not getting paid. But President Trump, after another closed-door meeting with congressional leaders today, thinks everything's going great.
So we had a productive meeting today with Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer. I thought it was really a very, very good meeting. We're all on the same path in terms of wanting to get government open.
So it turns out that may not be 100% accurate, a 100% accurate version of what actually happened. Here's a picture the White House put out tonight. Does the president look happy to you? Look at that. Two sources tell CNN that when President Trump entered the room, he launched into a 15-minute plus rant, which the Wall Street Journal describes as profanity-laced, telling congressional leaders he won't settle for less than $5.6 billion for the wall. He won't negotiate, and he doesn't care if it takes years. The president admitted as much in the Rose Garden later.
I did say that. Absolutely, I said that. I don't think it will, but I am prepared, and I think I can speak for Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that most people in Congress, Republicans and Democrats, would not be prepared to see the shutdown last for years. Most Americans too, right? Those two sources telling CNN the closed-door meeting was long, not because it was substantive or productive, but because the president was putting on the same kind of long-winded and frankly outrageous performance we saw later in the Rose Garden. But President Trump, he says he's proud of himself.
I'm very proud of doing what I'm doing. I don't call it a shutdown. I call it doing what you have to do for the benefit and for the safety of our country. You can call it the Schumer or the Pelosi or the Trump shutdown. Doesn't make any difference to me. Just words.
Just words. Those are not quite the words President Trump used just a few weeks ago.
I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it.
And listen to this moment that had a lot of people scratching their heads. President Trump claiming that some of his predecessors told him they should have built a wall.
This should have been done by all of the presidents that preceded me, and they all know it. Some of them have told me that we should have done it.
CNN asked the White House to explain exactly who the president was talking about there. A spokesman for former President Bill Clinton says he never said that. A spokesman for former President George W. Bush says they didn't discuss this. We haven't heard back from the office of the former President Barack Obama, but he reportedly hasn't even talked to President Trump since he left the White House on Inauguration Day, unless you count that awkward hello at the funeral of George H.W. Bush. No word yet from the representative from the former President Jimmy Carter. And there is more. The president threatening today to declare a national emergency to build his wall.
We can call a national emergency because of the security of our country. Absolutely. No, we can do it. I haven't done it. I may do it. I may do it. But we can call a national emergency and build it very quickly. And it's another way of doing it.
Okay, as we always say here, you know this is our mantra. Facts matter. And the fact is, there is no national emergency at our southern border. This is simply another attempt by this president to get his way by doing an end run around Congress, to get his precious wall, the wall he is willing to shut down the federal government for, the wall he has been talking about for years. Mexico's going to pay for it, right? Concrete, steel, slats, see-through. He was at it again today.
As far as concrete, I said I was going to build a wall. I never said, I'm going to build a concrete. I said I'm going to build a wall.
Oh, yeah? Well, let's go to the videotape.
We're going to build a wall, and it's going to be impenetrable. It will be a real wall. It's not going to be a little wall. It's going to be a big, beautiful wall.
What are the walls going to be made out of?
I'll tell you what it's going to be made of. It's going to be made of hardened concrete.
Concrete plank, precast, boom, being done. Keep going.
Walls are easy. Precast concrete, going very high. China built a wall that's 13,000 miles. long, 2,000 years ago. And my ambition is to have ours be much higher.
The wall just got 10 feet higher.
Is it going to be 45 feet or 40 feet? That could very well be.
Going to be a very tall wall, very strong wall, very powerful wall.
It's going to be a beautiful, gorgeous, big wall that they're going to name Trump someday. That's why I'm going to make it. Someday they'll call it the Trump wall, so I have to make it beautiful. We're going to have a big, fat, beautiful door right in the middle of the wall. There are some areas that you have to see through. You have to be able to see through the other side in order to see what's coming. So you have a concrete wall, but you can't see anything, right? 100 pounds of drugs. They throw it over the wall, it lands, and it hits somebody on the head. So you need to have a great wall, but it has to be see-through. We're talking about the southern border. Lots of sun, lots of heat. We're thinking about building the wall as a solar wall, so it creates energy and pays for itself. You have 2,000 miles. You have mountains, you have rivers, you have things that you don't put the wall on, you don't need them. There could be some fencing. It's not a fence, it's a wall. You just misreported it. We're going to build a wall. If you go back to 2006, they all approved essentially a wall, a very powerful fence, which is pretty much the same thing. A wall. Or a slat fence, or whatever you want to call it. Wall, a fence, whatever they'd like to call it. I'll call it whatever they want. But it's all the same thing. If I build this wall or fence or anything the Democrats need to call it, and the wall is made out of steel instead of concrete, I think people will like that.
It went from concrete to everything. There was everything in there except for a moat with alligators lapping at immigrants' rear ends. I mean, it was going to be the kid. What's the wall going to be made out of? Concrete. Oh my gosh. Come on, y'all. Can we be real? Okay, so no. Here's what a CNN poll just last month found, that a majority of Americans, 57%, are opposed to the wall. Even though the president insists the wall is all about safety and he is willing to keep the government shut down to get it. But what about the safety of Americans during the shutdown? Here's some examples. Airline passengers, right? Hundreds of TSA screeners have called in sick this week at some of the nation's biggest airports. The TSA admits absences are on the rise, but says they're having a minimal impact. But the president of the Screeners Union says this will definitely affect the flying public. That's a quote. So something to consider. If you're planning a trip during the shutdown, you need to consider all of that. But the president also had something else on his mind today. The I word, impeachment.
Nancy said, "We're not looking to impeach you." I said, "That's good, Nancy, that's good."
Speaker Pelosi's office confirmed she made clear in the meeting today it was about reopening the government, not about impeachment. But did you hear what the president said when he was asked about Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's expletive, the one that begins with mother, but definitely does not end with father, when she vowed to impeach President Trump?
Well, I thought her comments were disgraceful. This is a person that I don't know. I assume she's new. I think she dishonored herself, and I think she dishonored her family. Using language like that in front of her son and whoever else was there, I thought that was a great dishonor to her and to her family.
Dishonor, I know, right? Who would use language like that?
Get that son of a bitch off the field right now.
Grab him by the pussy. I can do anything.
You can tell them to go themselves.
Well, tonight, the Congresswoman is definitely not backing down, telling CNN affiliate WDIV this.
I know that if I was a man, it might have been differently. I know that for me, I've always been this way. I mean, I think no one expects me to be anything but myself, the girl from Southwest Detroit, the little sass and attitude. I think, you know, President Trump has met his match.
All of this as the shutdown goes on, and let's face it, there is an upside to this for the president. Every day that the country is focused on the shutdown, it's another day that the Russia investigation is pushed out of the headlines, which is why it's important to note that the Mueller grand jury, which was set to expire in just days, was extended today. So while the president desperately tries to get the upper hand in the shutdown battle, Robert Mueller just keeps rolling along, and that brings up another really important point. While all this is going on, there is an American in a Russian jail, Paul Whelan, a United States citizen who served 14 years in the Marine Corps Reserve, was arrested December 28th in Moscow and charged with espionage. His brother insists he was in Moscow for a wedding, and now he is being held without bail on a charge that could land him in prison for 10 to 20 years. The president didn't say a word about it today, even though he had a golden opportunity with the press corps gathered in the Rose Garden and much of the nation watching.